All through our school days, we were taught that there are 7 continents in the world, which is right considering what we can see on the map of our planet Earth. However, due to the recent research carried out, there might actually be an 8th, and this might alter our knowledge about the history of the Earth. It took scientists 375 years to discover this continent lurking in plain sight and still unknown. Geologists recently discovered a large amount of land that humanity had forgotten deep inside the Pacific Ocean. Approximately 94% of the continent is submerged, yet details about the landmass and early dwellers remain mysterious. So far, what have they discovered? Join us as we uncover the mysterious 8th continent. The 8th continent, Zealandia. This 8th continent, known as Zealandia, is estimated to be about 3,500 feet deep within the Pacific Ocean southern region. There has been much controversy about the territory and whether it should be termed a continent or not. We all know that the prerequisite that qualifies a territory to be a continent remains controversial. It is not the same as a mountain, country, or planet. There is no institutional body that certifies a continent. Nicholas Mortimer, a geologist from New Zealand's GNS Science, who led the 2017 group, shared with Insider in an interview. Nevertheless, scientists believe a continent should have well-defined boundaries and occupy more than 1 million square kilometers. A continent should also be raised above the surrounding crust of the ocean and have a continental crust that is thicker than that of the oceanic crust. Fortunately, Zealandia fits all of the major characteristics the scientists listed. So in 2017, a team of geologists declared it one, though not all scientists agree. Besides, if you were to drain the entire ocean, this massive land would stand out as a true plateau above the ocean floor. Mortimer, one of the researchers, explained. Initially, there were assumptions about how long Zealandia existed. The earliest rock and crust samples ever taken from this massive land date back to just about 500 million years, in contrast with the crusts of other continents, which are approximately 1 billion years old. But a recent study conducted by Geoscience World found that a part of the submerged continent is twice as old as geologists previously thought, implying that it is as old as other continents. This new study ticks that final continental box. Rose Turnbull, a New Zealand geologist who co-authored the study, said in a press release, "Undoubtedly, we live on top of a continent." First evidence of Zealandia. The existence of Zealandia was first documented in 1642, when Abel Tasman decided to embark on a mission. The experienced Dutch sailor was confident of the existence of a vast continent in the southern hemisphere, and he was determined to find it. This part of the world was still entirely unknown to Europeans at the time, but they were certain that there must be a massive landmass out there, preemptively named Terra Australis, to balance out their own continent in the north. Though this notion or obsession dated back to ancient Rome, only now would it be put to the test. And so, on August 14th, Tasman embarked on the journey from his company's base in Jakarta, Indonesia, with 2 small ships. He began by heading west, to the south, then east, and eventually arrived on the southern island of New Zealand. He certainly encountered several setbacks along the way. A notable one was his experience with the Maori people, the indigenous residents of New Zealand's islands, which undoubtedly did not go well. On the second day, the locals ventured out in canoes and attacked a small boat transmitting signals between the 2 ships. 4 Europeans were killed. In a bid to defend themselves, the Europeans fired a cannon at 11 more canoes, and that ended the mission. Tasman named the tragic spot Moordinners, Murderers, Bay, and sailed home many weeks later, without even setting foot on this new land, but confident he had found the vast southern continent. Little did he know that it was mostly underwater. The spectacular rediscovery of Zealandia. Since Abel Tasman's encounter, scientists have been on the lookout for Zealandia. Finally, after almost 375 years, in 2017, a group of geologists hit the headlines when they announced their discovery of Zealandia, making it the 8th continent on Earth. A vast continent of about 4.9 million square kilometers, this is roughly 6 times the real size and area of Madagascar. It houses one of the most sizable maritime territories in the world. Though every continent on the planet has different countries on it, there are only 3 territories on Zealandia. Aside from New Zealand, the continent includes New Caledonia Island and other Australian territories, belonging to Lord Howe Island, as well as Bali's pyramid. So far, the world's encyclopedias, maps, and search engines had been insisting for some time that there are only 7 continents. The team emphatically announced to the world that this was incorrect. After all, there are 8, and the most recent addition is the world's smallest, thinnest, and youngest continent. Zealandia was once part of Gondwana, an ancient supercontinent that formed around 550 million years ago and effectively merged all of the territories in the southern hemisphere. It occupied a corner on the eastern side, bordering several other territories, including half of West Antarctica and eastern Australia. Then, around 105 million years ago, owing to a process scientists don't quite understand yet, Zealandia started to pull away. Continental crust is often 40 kilometers thick, much thicker than the oceanic crust, typically 10 kilometers thick. Zealandia was stretched and strained, and its crust now barely extends 20 kilometers, or 12.4 miles, underground. The wafer-thin continent eventually sank, but not quite to the level of regular oceanic crust, and vanished beneath the water. Despite its thinness and submergence, geologists know Zealandia is a continent due to the kind of rocks discovered there. The continental crust primarily consists of igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary rocks, such as granite, schist, and limestone, whereas the ocean floor is mostly made of igneous rocks such as basalt. Despite this recent discovery, geologists believe several things remain unknown about the continent. The historical origin of Zealandia tends to add to the mystery and baffling context of this territory. For example, how did the continent manage to stick together, intact, considering how thin it is? How did it avoid disintegrating into multiple miniature microcontinents? Another puzzle surrounding Zealandia is when exactly it went underwater. Was this land formerly dry? We expect to find answers to these problems soon with additional research. There's also the question of what once lived there. Gondwana, with its warm climate and 39 million square miles, 101 million square kilometers, was home to a diverse range of flora and fauna, including the first 4-limbed land animals and afterward, an array of Titanosaurus. Thus, could Zealandia's rocks be the bedrock for preserved remains? Nevertheless, this doesn't necessarily indicate dinosaurs were wandering over the land of Zealandia. Perhaps these islands may have been sanctuaries, while the rest were submerged, as it is now. There's a lengthy argument about whether it's feasible to have land animals without continuous land, and whether they died and went extinct without it. Though it's impossible to collect fossils from the seafloor of Zealandia directly, scientists have been plumbing its depths by drilling. Actually, the most helpful and distinctive fossils are the ones which form in the very shallow seas, says Sutherland, because they leave a record. Part of the ongoing mission is to create a 4D map of Zealandia's western coast, allowing us to see what that boundary looks like in 3 dimensions and how it has changed over time. Recently, scientists were able to map the shape and depth of the ocean floor surrounding Zealandia, what's known as a bathymetric map. The image, which is part of a global effort to map the whole ocean floor by 2030, also reveals Zealandia's size and coasts in unprecedented detail. The team also generated a tectonic map that depicted the locations of the continental and oceanic crusts that make up the submerged landmass. These new detailed maps, and the fact that areas of Zealandia are older than geologists previously thought, provide additional evidence that it should be considered the 8th continent. We hope that Zealandia will one day feature on world maps, be taught in schools, and become as well known as other continents. A quick test. Can you tell us the names of the 8 continents in the comment section without checking it out on Google? Try it out and see if you know the answer.